Hey everyone, thank you for being here today. I am so delighted to have this wonderful guest with me today. His name is Michael, and he is an approach coach, a transformational guide, and ceremonialist focused on helping people on the path of self discovery to transform outdated ways of being so they can blossom. He draws inspiration from witnessing the resilience and growth potential within every individual and firmly believes that life is a beautiful journey designed to support our becoming. I love that. I
Mm.
really love that. I love all of that. So tell me, how did you get started on this journey of yours?
That is a great question. Well, as everybody who's alive started, I was born,
Yeah.
and then I had to adjust to life. And I was raised in a pretty traditional middle upper class kind of situation in Texas. And, pretty normal. And by that, I mean, parents got divorced, they went through their whole thing, and it was very mundane. Everything was still kind of fitting within a box. And then when I was 14, I was going through confirmation at the Presbyterian church that I was attending, and my father committed suicide.
Mm.
And as soon as that happened, it was like I pressed a giant pause button and I said, hold on, what is actually going on here? And so from 14 until now, my questions started becoming more about what is this experience that we are going through? What is life about? Who am I? What is the cause of suffering? Trying to do a whole smattering of approaches to making the ghost of my dad happy while also trying to figure out how I wanted to be and go through that kind of individuation process. And for a male, at least, that 14-year-old time frame, you're going through puberty, and all of a sudden, I lost my lead figure that was
Mhm.
supposed to demonstrate how to go through all of that. And so I just had to start digging and investigating these things. And that path took me through all the traditional education, got my undergrad, got my master's, two master's degrees. And then I was looking around and I said, wait, people still aren't happy. I'm not happy. Uh, Crap. I need to go do something. And I ended up kind of changing trajectory slowly, but ended up deeply studying plant medicine for 5+ years. And as I went through that journey, cultivated additional supportive skill sets to help people transform. And I was recently told, an approach coach sounds like you're a dating coach, right? I was like, that is probably true. Uh, and there's something beautiful about that. There is this dynamic of whether it's in dating or in life, you need to figure out how you're going to get out there. How do you want to engage with life? And that's a question that I've spent a lot of time with.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's just I find it really fascinating, like how the whole grief process gets us going in some different direction. It's it's a catalyst for growth. It really is. And so your journey and mine are very similar. Even just down to the two master's degrees. I think
Mhm.
that's so funny. And yeah, when you get those, what else is there? Why do we keep searching? Why are we keep trying to find more?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know about for you, but for me, I was trying to check boxes.
Hmm.
I was like, cool, if I check these boxes, then I can be me. If I check these boxes, then I can be okay. And I got to the end where all of the boxes were checked, and I was like, what? What's next? I don't know. How do I go forwards from here? I'd focused so much on checking all the boxes that I'd kind of forgotten to live. Uh,
Mm.
and so it was a very interesting dance as I kind of took the next steps on my journey.
Yeah. And what led you to the plant medicine? Like I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I was also a pretty rebellious 14-year-old kid. And I would say during high school, I was pretty well behaved, relatively well behaved. I'll put an asterisk there. But, once I got into college and kind of got to have a little bit more freedom, I experimented recreationally with certain substances like mushrooms or LSD. And I had some interesting experiences and some profound experiences, but nothing that was like, oh, I have found the solution to the universe sort of thing. It was just like, wow, I can feel myself more. And all of the other approaches that I was taking at that point in time were to kind of numb out what I was feeling. So it was a way that I got to open myself. And by the time that I finished grad school, I got my Master's of Business Association and a Master's of Science in Business Administration and a Master's of Science in Public Policy. And there's a lot of free networking events in graduate school, and it's all drinking. And I was looking at my body and I was like, I'm beat up.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I kind of knew it was time to go on a healing journey of some sort, or at least a recovery journey. And I wanted to go get my yoga teacher training certification and study natural building and permaculture. And I'd heard about ayahuasca since I'm sure it was some Joe Rogan podcast way back in the day. And I was like, I think it's time. And I did some searching. I found some facilitators who I really resonated with. I'd been studying a variety of Buddhist and esoteric Christian practices, trying to figure out kind of what my approach was. And it resonated. And then as soon as I had my first retreat, first 2 nights, nothing happened. And I was like, this is weird. Uh, and then talked to the facilitator, and he was like, no, you're just a little backed up and things are they're working their way through. I promise you you'll pop. And then sure enough, next ceremony, I popped and I had a wonderful experience where I got to grieve. I got to grieve fully and feel what that was like, not from a mental standpoint, but from just letting my body let go of tension and stress that it had been holding on to and that it was tired of holding on to. And as soon as I had that experience, I said, what is this? And I went down a rabbit hole. And still participated in a plan that I had, which was to join the Peace Corps and kind of figure out life from there. Uh, Joined the Peace Corps. They changed the program that I was in and took away all the structure that I had. And it's like, no, this isn't right. And then 2 weeks later, after I quit, I was back in the jungle of Peru studying plant medicine full time. And that training really showed me the energetic dynamics of how we are as humans, or at least helped me learn a lot more about them. Coming from a very traditional Western, in our mind, grief being a mental, psychological process that we go through, or being very well trained mind. And so trying to control life through how I think about things. Plant medicine helped open up my body, helped open up my emotions, helped open up my experiences so that I knew how to more skillfully navigate the world.
Wow. That sounds very profound. So this
There's
brief experience, like just tell me a little bit more about, the way that you opened up to these emotions, because I think this is really a key for our healing is to be able to open up. And I know we've always been told like don't cry and don't you need to be strong and all that kind of stuff, and it's conditioned us to be very pulled in and restricted, and then when
yeah,
it's time to let these things go, after they've built up, and sometimes over many, 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 many years, it's hard to do.
Yeah. And is it all right if I curse on your podcast?
Oh, I don't
Just
think I have any kids watching, but
great. Because that story of don't let anything go, be strong, all this stuff is absolute and utter bullshit. It's it is totally valid to say that grief can teach us resiliency, and it does. It's one of the most amazing teachings from it. But to say or to ignore that you went through something, and we come from, or at least I come from in the States, what has been a pretty emotionally illiterate culture.
yes.
And so learning to work with our emotions, allowing them to flow. I mean, when my dad died, I think I cried for literally a minute and then I shut it down. And I did not cry for a really, really, really long time. I was definitely sad. And I wasn't told that it was okay to be sad.
Mhm.
I was told, get over it. And you're also 14, so you're going through life as quickly as you can. You're in
Mhm.
this blossoming phase of like, oh no, puberty's happening. There's go to school, study. Life continues past whatever happens to us. And so when I had my plant medicine experience, the first one at least, you know, what happened was I had this wonderful experience of being fully connected to what I will call the divine nature of reality. Um, and I was there and I was dancing and really feeling authentically happy for the first time in a very long time. And all of a sudden, I felt this sadness come in, and there's this part of me that just knew it was my dad. I was like, cool, you can hang out here. You can be sad. I'm gonna be over here dancing. The lesson that I was getting was you've got to dance to the rhythm of your own drum. You've got to be you. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna dance. Stay here and be sad. It's totally fine. Hang around. And it just kept on getting heavier and heavier and heavier to the point where I was like, you know what? I can't hold on to this anymore. Like
Mhm.
I actually need to let you go. And for those of you who don't know, plant medicine, things can get very weird and psychedelic and a little bit trippy. And the entire right side of my body, which is the archetypical masculine side, it was like tears were running down my arm and my legs. And it was just this cleansing. And I came out of that and I felt so much better. And I wasn't done, the
Yeah.
when I got down to Peru, there was more work to do. I remember there was to really let go of all of the grief that I'd been holding and all the weight and all the stress. I was thinking that I had to be so strong, right? And I was working with some plant medicine and I came out and I was like, oh, I felt like an orangutan. I felt super strong and I was like, yeah, I could do it. And I tried to force my way into the sadness and I couldn't. And eventually I just kind of stopped trying. And a friend started telling some jokes. And he said something, it's too long of a story to get into, but he said something that was so funny to me that I just started laughing and laughing and laughing until I was so exhausted from laughing that I didn't have any energy left to fight or hold on or anything. And then I think I cried for about 30 to 45 minutes. And I cannot tell you a time that I have felt better in my life.
Yeah. And that releasing is huge. That's a huge thing. And however we do that, I mean, for you, this is what worked and it might not resonate with everyone, but you found your way. And I love how you felt into everything. This doesn't feel right, but this feels right. This is, kind of the path, because I think that's the way people need to go. You need to find what resonates with you and then go with that. And I love how you've gone down this journey that way, following your gut.
Thank you. Yeah, plant medicine is not for everybody. Even doing intake calls and having facilitated ceremonies, many ceremonies at this point in time, it's just not. There's people where it's not the right fit medically, there's people where it's not the right fit emotionally or mentally or spiritually. And then there's people where it's the perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the bigger question is how are you engaging with the process that you're going through? I'm not entitled enough to say, here's how you should handle your process. Although sometimes my ego would, sure, it would love to pop up and tell you how to do it. But from my vantage point, if somebody is capable of saying, you know what, I just need to numb out for a little bit, that is where I'm at in my process, and they're able to consciously numb out, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is skillful. There is such a thing as skillfully watching Netflix so that you can kind of check out from your day. And then you can watch Netflix and get, 35 episodes, 2 seasons into some show, and it's been a day and a half, and you're sitting there on the couch being like, what happened? And that's okay too. But you have to look at that question of what did happen. It's okay to have space and to take time with these things, but there's no way around it. Eventually, we have to go through it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what plant medicine does, or one of the many things it does, is that it's ayahuasca in particular is very intelligent. She knows how to approach you. When you're in a well facilitated space, it's going to bring those things up to the surface so that they can get released and worked through. The tension comes from fighting it, from holding on to it, from saying, no, this is my pain and I don't want to let it go.
Right.
And that's valid too. In my perspective, grief is a giant portal to love. You
Mm.
know, if somebody were to pass away and you're not that connected to them, it's not this major grief experience most of the time. It's when we're connected to somebody and then they're gone, whether it was sudden or we've had our time to say goodbyes, doesn't really matter. We go back, and what's left are the positive memories and all the times that we wish we could have been more loving. It breaks your heart open. And that's painful, but it's beautiful. If we try to say, don't break open and hold everything
Yeah.
together, one, good luck. And two, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. I also don't think that we know how to grieve in our current culture, which is another challenge. So it's a process. And plant medicine for me played a big role. But for others, it shouldn't.
Yeah, and when I was looking at your website, I noticed that you have different programs that you can enlist in, and one of them was an online program, I believe. Can you tell us more about that? What's it all about? If I was someone looking at that, what am I hoping to get out of that experience?
Yeah. So I love working with people who are at a time of metamorphosis. And what I have found as somebody who has worked with a lot of plant medicine and seen that plant medicine has its pros, but it also has its limitations, is that I wanted to come up with an offering that was more accessible for everybody. And so I'm also trained in shamanic energy work, which is rooted in the approach of getting to the root of these issues,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, even in plant medicine, we can let go of things and feel so much better, but then the pattern comes back. It's like, what? Why is it coming back? And it's because we're not getting rid of the affinity for it. And so the shamanic energy medicine gets rid of what we call the imprint, the energy associated with the imprint, and also the affinity for it. And you can substitute pattern that you have for imprint. And what the journey of alchemy is designed to do is to ask you one question, which is, how do you want to be? And sit with that. For me, my answer is I want to be real. I want to be relaxed. I want to be engaged. I want to be authentic and I want to be loving. I haven't found anybody who has told me, no, I don't want to be those things yet.
Mm.
They have their different words, but it's getting to this, and it's not a state of doing, it's a sense of purpose and it's a feeling. It's a somatic feeling in your body when you tune into how do you want to be. And once you can feel that and orient to that, then all these patterns that you keep tripping over in your life become really clear because you have a compass to navigate with. And so instead of it just being this cycle, it says, oh, this is something that I'm doing. I'm tired of doing that.
Mm.
And there's coaching and guidance to help explore what's going on. And then once that's identified, we do shamanic energy work to clear out that pattern and to transmute it, right? This isn't about just, oh, get rid of it, it's bad. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. This is everything has value. And what we're doing is we're turning the heaviness of those experiences. We're clearing out the weight and what's heavy from them so that we can find the refined gold that's there. One of the things that I love is that when I'm working with people is saying, hey, people are tired of people are sick of being sick and people are tired of carrying around all this weight that's not theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer that I have found isn't that people want to feel weightless and not have responsibility and just be airy and float off. I mean, there's definitely some people who love that. It's not my approach.
Yeah.
My approach is gold has weight to it, but it feels correct. And so when people are going through times of transition, whether it is due to grief and something major has happened in your life, whether it's just that point of time when you're like, I need to change, that energy needs to be put into a container, or it's very helpful if it gets put into a container, I should say, because otherwise it's just flying everywhere. There's no ability for it to have a place to go. And my approach is I want to empower people to know how to make these changes in themselves, to feel engaged in their own life so that you can go forwards. I'm trying to coach myself out of a job. I'd love it if nobody needed to come to me, you know? And
Yeah.
when I look at other models of therapy or even other coaching models, it's, oh, you should have a coach forever, or oh, you need to be working with a therapist forever. It's like, no, you need to go through a process, transform this energy, know how it works, and then feel empowered to call upon different resources in your life so that you can act skillfully.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and it kind of takes me back to what you were saying at the beginning, where you've checked all the boxes, you get to this space where, I've tried everything and I don't know what else to do. Sounds like go see you because
Please. Yeah.
and I also noticed, like on your website, you have a lot of acronyms that I just have to say, I totally love acronyms for whatever reason. Maybe it was because I was in education and it was a thing, but you have this being real, relaxed, engaged, loving, authentic, and well, and not in that order because that doesn't spell real, but there's so much what you're saying that resonates with me because that's a big piece of who I want to be. And it sounds like that's where a lot of people want to be, is just in this authentic space of being themselves and being able to do freely whatever your heart desires, right? And not have this judgment coming in or these certain expectations that have to happen. It's just so freeing to think that you could be that person.
Absolutely. And what I love about the framework is that it's a paradox. If I'm authentically feeling angry and hurt and closed off and a little bit mean, if that's authentic to where I'm at in that moment, how do I hold that and loving at the same time? How do I hold being relaxed in my body while also being engaged? What's the difference between being so relaxed that I collapse or so engaged that I'm consistently anxious? How do I navigate that within my body? And what I realized is that I was really frustrated. This is how I came up with the framework. Was frustrated. I was disappointed in life. I was disappointed in my life, and I was projecting it everywhere. I was like, this, why don't people have it together? The more I sat with that, the more I realized that at the essence of what I saw as a challenge in the world was that people are sick of being sick. And people are being sold all these different solutions to make them feel better, but it doesn't work. And so, because what people really need is the space to just be them so that they can blossom. And for my viewpoint, I want to live in a beautiful world. And for me to live in a beautiful world, everybody has to blossom. Everybody. And so, yeah, when I look at what I hear people saying, maybe this is my own little inner joke. It's like people talking about, oh, I just want to live in flow. I just want to be real, man. Um, you can take it anywhere from very hippie to very entrepreneur tech bro. And I find it to be true. I'm just like, yeah, you want to be relaxed. You want to be engaged. You want to be authentic. You want to be loving. You want to be real. Why? So that you can live in flow in a state where you're feeling, you're listening, you're opening. There's a sense of wonder and awe about life. That's how we want to be. So, okay, how do you work towards getting there? You practice magic. You're mindful, you're adaptable, you're gentle. You find practices that are inspiring to you and that help you connect with something more than yourself and that help you connect with yourself. What those practices are can change, but the approach of finding inspiration in life, connecting with something, not being so hard on yourself all the time that you can practice the discipline of gentleness, that takes patience and practice. And what I love about that gentleness, because it throws people off sometimes. It's like, look, if you're going 100 miles per hour and you pull the e-brake on your car, it's not that gentle on your system.
Mm.
So I'm not saying, hey, you need to pull the e-brake. I'm saying we need to explore where you're at and discover what being gentle is in that moment. And as your terrain changes, how do you adapt to it? How can you stay mindful of how you're oriented to the world around you without being trapped in your mind? These are all questions.
Right.
And and that's why I love my job is because I get to be the person who asks questions and not who needs to have the answers. It's because people have to figure out those things for themselves. What I love about your podcast and what you're sharing and exploring around grief is that it's the same thing. Nobody can tell you what your grief process should look like.
Mhm.
Nobody can tell you what's right or wrong about it. and you have to engage with it at some point in time.
Yeah.
And so, if part of you engaged in your grief process is running off to the jungle like I did, great. There's consequences to that I have had to negotiate. But as we go through our process, as we figure out how to be us, how do we want to be?
Mhm.
And it always comes back to that. How do you want to be?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big question because sometimes we don't even know how we want to be. And so exploring that is really interesting. This has been absolutely fascinating. All of this discussion is just really resonating with me. I really love your approach. What else would you like to share before we go? Because I know there was lots we could cover, but what's coming for you to share with the group?
Mhm. For people who are experiencing grief, my invitation is to allow it to transform you. It's the most love is transformative, and grief is a portal to love. It can and will transform you. If you are looking for a container to help you go through that transformation, I'm happy to work with you. And also, it does not have to be me, but I would encourage people to find a way to support themselves through that process so that it's never going to be a missed opportunity, but so that you can make the most of that opportunity. And for those of you who are interested in plant medicine, I will be hosting a retreat in Costa Rica in November. And so I'm happy to have conversations about that if you're looking for a safe place to also, a safe and comfortable place so that you can dive into your discomfort. It's it's what we provide, and there's also going to be dance and movement and joy and exploration of things. Um, but yeah, that's what I have, and I would just again leave people with that question of how do you want to be?
Yeah, what a beautiful thing to explore. And just that whole, how grief can be. Um, well, and I always use we embrace grief as a pathway to transformation, which is like this very similar message, right? It's all about transformation. It's all about love, loving ourselves, loving others. And so this message is really resonating with me. So thank you
Mhm.
so much again for sharing. How do people find you? I will definitely put a link, but
Yeah, people can find me at my website, info or my email is info@alchemyshift.com, and my website is www.alchemyshift.com. I do have an Instagram and Facebook, but I'm not on those things for my own health and sanity.
yeah.
Uh, so, yeah, head over to my website. You can schedule a free 30-minute call with me to chat about what's going on and see if we're the right fit or what might be the right fit for you.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you again, Michael, for taking the time today. And I want to thank everyone for listening. And we'll see you in the next podcast.